You're listening to Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
two certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only two best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go.
Well, I understand that it's Tuesday.
Surprise!
And that you're like, wait, why are you here? Well, I mean, a couple of
Don't
reasons.
you want to hear from us
Yeah,
more?
I mean, don't ask questions. Appreciate what you get. Well, it's for a couple reasons. One, I can't talk about yet. Okay.
Not quite yet.
Not quite yet. One is that we're doing a coaching enrollment period. And I'm like, oh, let's do bonus content during this period. Great. But also because this is the dumbest thing I've heard of in a while. And I was like, we need to talk about this. And I don't really have another time to talk about it for a while. So I'm like, well, I got to create more time to talk about it because it's in the cultural lexicon at this moment. And it will not be in 3 weeks.
It's very current.
It's very now.
And we have things to say about this.
Okay. So I did something I never do before a podcast.
Okay.
I researched.
Well, maybe if we're doing a bonus book club, but that's not really research. That's just reading a book.
That's reading the book and then taking notes.
So you mean you prepared?
Yes.
We don't normally do that.
I prepared. Okay. Because I wanted to know, why is this phrase quiet quitting, which if you haven't heard about it, I would be surprised because even Kristen had heard about it, which tells me it has really permeated
and I am
the culture.
Almost never on social media.
Right.
I am not what you would call with it.
Absolutely in no way, shape, or
and
form.
even I have heard this phrase. So if it's trickled down to me, probably all of you are rolling your eyes like, yeah, this is a thing.
Here, let me demonstrate to you what Kristen does not know about Gen Z. Do you know what emoji they use that is the millennial equivalent of the crying laughing emoji?
They don't use that one anymore?
No.
Is that not cool? How about the sideways crying laughing emoji?
I don't know. You'd have to ask someone who's 22.
Well, I have one of those in my family. Sure. I can ask my brother.
Ask him. They use the skull emoji.
Why?
Because they're dead. It's so funny.
Oh my.
So there you go.
Oh no.
You just proved my point. You know, you're not with it. You don't know anything.
I want him to listen to this because I know he's going to be like,
God, you're embarrassing.
So lame.
Really embarrassing. I mean, I use the skull every now and again.
If you use it to me, I would be like,
what are you doing?
Are you okay?
I use it with my friends who are hipper than you.
That's all of them. All of them.
I mean, yeah. So anyway, all of that is to say, to prove my point, that if Kristen knows about it, everyone must know about it because she doesn't know anything.
Nope. Not when it comes to that.
Okay. So I did some research on where did this come from exactly? Like, why is this all of a sudden in the conversation at large? So I saw David Farrier. He's a journalist. He's from New Zealand. He podcasts on Dax Shepard's and Monica Padman's armchair, in their armchair sort of universe. Mm-hmm. He has a segment they do with him about conspiracy theories called Armchaired and Dangerous, which is fun. And then he also has his own separate podcast now called Flightless Bird, which is he got kind of marooned here during COVID. And so every week he explores something weird about America that he doesn't understand. And it's like he had an episode about football. He had an episode about toilets because we have very different toilet situation, apparently.
Oh.
He just did one about bunkers.
Oh, no.
Underground bunkers are a real thing here. Oh. Diners.
I hate that it's true, but it's true.
Yeah. So he did. It's fun.
Diners are not a thing?
Not. But that's what I'm saying is like you think things are a thing and it's actually just American. Huh. And so he's done all these explorations of things that were, specifically American. He did one about the healthcare system, which like, oh my God, of course. Dog shows.
Yeah, I love a dog show.
He's gonna have to do one about guns eventually.
Oh, sure, of course.
Anyway, he did one about flags because Americans are obsessed with hanging our flag everywhere, and he's like, other countries don't do that.
Yeah.
That's us. Anyway,
yeah. Anyway.
So his article, his website is where I got what I'm about to read right now. He has a website called Webworm. I don't know why he calls it that, but it's webworm.co. And it's like a subscription. So you can there's a free version, but you can also pay for his like monthly, it's like journalism, right? You're supporting.
Sure.
And he has people writing for him. So I read this article that one of his writers wrote about quiet quitting. And I want to quote it to you because this guy figured out where it came from. Okay. All right. So this guy named Hayden Donnell wrote this article on Webworm that said, there's just one small issue with the coverage of quiet quitting, which blew up, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
There's little to no evidence quiet quitting is actually happening. For all this content to be written by news outlets around the world, you'd expect there to be tangible proof that this is a practice upending workplaces, or is at least one based in observable reality. An academic study, maybe. A survey, a Twitter poll, one of those Facebook emoji offs where you post a love heart if you're working hard and a sad face if you're quiet quitting. That's not the case. The outlets that bother to trace the term quiet quitting track it to a single viral TikTok by the 24-year-old engineer Zaid Khan. As it turns out, Khan isn't an expert on evolving global labor practices.
Imagine that.
And so then the article turned into more of an exploration, which I thought was fascinating, of how quickly one person's TikTok can go viral and start this whole trend where now everyone's commenting on this. I mean, they have like a Shark Tank guy weighing in on quiet quitting. They've got New York Times and the Washington Post writing about quiet quitting. And no one actually knows why we're talking about it or where it came from until you do the math and you literally go all the way back to one random guy's TikTok video. And it became less an article about quiet quitting and more about how, wow, we are really good at just taking something and running with it. And people will have comments and opinions as if they actually read the source material.
Sure. Of course. Oh, nobody reads the source material anymore.
I think there's a feature on Twitter now that is like when you retweet an article, you can like check, did I actually read this? So that people will know if what you're retweeting is something you've actually bothered to read.
But do you have to, can you just check it?
I don't know how that works. I'm not hip enough for Twitter at this point.
It's a good step in the right direction, but I still have my doubts.
So,
but something resonated.
Absolutely.
So even if the source is not the most
there's no
reliable,
it was not coming from like a peer-reviewed study. It was not like Harvard, put out some research about it. It started with a TikTok trend. It just resonated with people.
So it wasn't necessarily a comment on what was happening. It was a concept that so many people resonated with that it almost created the thing it was commenting on. Because now people are posting videos about their quiet quitting.
What they created was a word for something people have been doing since time immemorial.
Because that was my reaction.
Quiet quitting isn't new. What did I text you after that? I said, catch me quiet quitting at the Old Navy outlet in 2005. What are they talking about? This isn't new.
I know. I told you, we've been quiet quitting since before it was cool or even had a name.
Absolutely. Your dad has been quiet quitting since 1982 at least. And he would be the first to admit it.
Oh, yeah. My second job after college, when I moved up to Northern Virginia, what do you think I did for 6 of my 8 hours of my workday?
Oh my God.
Quiet quitting. I was Facebook. I was reading articles. I was on all these different little time-wasting sites.
Absolutely.
Because I was so bored.
Yeah.
And I could get away with it.
Right. I mean, this is not new. So for those of you who maybe haven't heard of it and don't know what it is, like you can put 2 and 2 together. It's just giving a trendy name to something that everyone at some point or another has probably done, which is put in the bare minimum. Like, and just clock in and clock out.
Quitting without actually quitting, like kind of quitting on the job.
Acting as if you're quitting, living as if you have quit.
But still collecting that paycheck.
So Adam Grant weighed in on this.
I'd love to hear Adam.
Organizational psychologist of note, Adam Grant, said, quiet quitting isn't laziness. Doing the bare minimum is a common response to bullshit jobs, abusive bosses, and low pay. When they don't feel cared about, people eventually stop caring.
I knew I would love his take.
Right.
Oh, so good.
I'm like, thank you. That's all really we need to hear. Like, that's true.
Quiet quitting is a very current new name for disengagement. I'm
Yes.
disengaged at my job. Either I don't love it, or maybe I once loved it and I got burned out, or I don't like the people that I'm working with, or I just fell into it. All of the things that we have all experienced at some point. Maybe you're experiencing it right now. You're just not in the right job for any number of reasons. And so you're not that engaged. So you just do what you got to do to get by. But I like that we're talking about it more openly now.
And people are admitting to it.
Yes.
And
feeling less alone, because that's one of the things I've had clients come to me so many times over the years. Like, well, I'm not working all day, every day. And sometimes I feel bad for if I go to a yoga class in the middle of the workday, or if I go take a walk, or
yes.
And they've been essentially quiet quitting for periods of their workday and feeling really weird about it. And now it's like, no, the reason this concept went viral so quickly and worldwide is because we're all doing it. So feel validated. Feel validated.
Want to do it, or we all have done it.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
In some way, shape, or form.
Which means if you have been there, or maybe you're currently there, or you feel tempted, I hope you feel very normal.
Yes. Let's talk about another phrase that's popped up around this conversation, which is working your wage. No, I'm not quiet quitting. I'm working my wage. As in, I'm working the amount that you are giving me to work. And I'm not going above and beyond expectations and killing myself for less money than I deserve.
That's fantastic.
Right?
I like that.
Speaking of, I just posted a story about this from, I'm going to pull it up. Some random person on Twitter, but it became, a meme. And I put it in our Instagram stories because I loved it. She says, I need someone to explain to me why it's always, if you can't pay rent, buy fewer lattes and avocado toasts, and not, if you can't pay your employees a living wage, buy fewer yachts, rockets, and spacecraft. Explain it to me like I'm in kindergarten.
Oh, that's good.
Right?
Yes. Yes. Because when you get hired for a job, you are bartering. You are bartering your time and expertise for the resource of money.
Yes.
And you don't get, in order for it to be a fair trade, they don't get to give you whatever amount of money they choose, and you give them all of your energy and focus and best effort.
They don't own you.
No.
They don't own you.
What is an equal exchange? Okay, this is providing this in my life, so I will provide that level of service in your life. That is fair.
Yeah. Quiet quitting is just a dumb name that people like because it's alliterative for I'm not going to go above and beyond the expectation or what you are compensating me for. I don't even think it's really about doing the bare minimum.
It's what it really is doing. It's capturing the spirit of rebellion that we all crave when we're in a situation that is not really serving us. And it's not a win-win.
Maybe taking advantage of us.
And you feel like rebelling. Quiet quitting captures that feeling of, okay, you can keep paying me, but I'm going to take back some of my power in this situation. And that's why it speaks to so many people. And that's why it's become as big as it has, because that's one of the things that I have encouraged clients to do in those types of toxic work situations.
Absolutely.
Is to find ways to be a little bit rebellious. It's really, it rebalances the scales. When something has been really out of balance, you have been giving way more than you are receiving. A little healthy dose of rebellion balances those scales back out. And that's really what we're talking about here. How can you just be a little bit more rebellious so you don't feel taken advantage of? And unfortunately, too many of us do feel taken advantage of, or have. We've been in jobs where we felt taken advantage of.
Yeah. See our side chat.
Hopefully you're not always all in them now, but I know some of you are.
See our side chat from a couple months ago.
Yes.
I don't remember the exact.
We'll put a link to it.
Title of that, but the one where we go on a tear about just needing to rebel from how toxic the system is. So is quiet quitting ever warranted? You bet your ass.
Sure.
In a lot of situations, you gotta pay your bills. You gotta get by. And if you're in a situation where you're in a job that is toxic or that the culture really sucks, or your people are making demands of you that are unreasonable, it is healthy to not go above and beyond and not give more than what is fair. And most people I know are not lazy. Most people I've coached default to giving too much.
Yep.
I don't think it's correct to think that most people default to trying to give as little as they possibly can. That would be a misinterpretation of the whole idea of quiet quitting. I think people need to move further closer in the direction of quiet quitting, because most people are doing way too much.
And as we talked about in that episode you're referring to, most companies will let you do too much.
Oh,
They're not going to stop you and say, please, I think you're giving us a little bit too much effort.
Yeah, no.
Can you rein it in? They're not going to rein you in. So quiet quitting is just a way of saying, I'm going to put up my own boundaries.
Yeah.
Around how much I give you, so I don't fall into burnout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the antidote to burnout, is what it is.
Well, it's not like the cure-all for burnout. It's a survival mechanism. It's a coping mechanism when maybe you can't immediately actually quit.
Well, the real cure for burnout is I need to change my situation in a dramatic way. But often when you're burnt out, you don't have any energy to make that change.
I would love to take a 6-month sabbatical, but my bank account says that's impossible.
Exactly.
So quiet quitting is you mentally taking a sabbatical.
It gives you back some of your energy and your time so that you can make the bigger move that you need to make to get out of burnout long term.
Now, is it ever unwarranted? Sure. I think there are times when you're just not a good fit and you and the job are not aligned, and it might not be toxic. It might just be not compatible. And instead of doing the bare minimum, you could just, put yourself in a better situation and leave.
And open it up for them to get the right person in there. So you get to go to the right fit for you, and you give them a chance to get the right fit. That's a real win-win.
It's also not warranted if it's coming from a place of passive aggression, because there are things you could be doing to change the circumstance or the status quo, and you're too afraid to have a difficult conversation.
I can see some of our people pleasers,
defaulting to that,
letting that feel tempting. I'd rather just quiet quit than ask my boss for what I really need, because that's going to be an uncomfortable conversation. So I'm going to pretend that I'm doing more and actually do less. But that doesn't actually feel like rebellion. That feels out of alignment. That feels out of integrity. And ultimately that's going to burn you out more, because you're going to feel pressure and guilt because you're not just speaking up for yourself. So that's not the cure then. This is really the cure this is the answer. I
wouldn't call it a cure to anything. It's a coping mechanism.
It's a coping mechanism.
It's not a permanent solution.
It's a good temporary answer
to anything
in certain circumstances, especially when you have been pushed beyond the agreement that you signed on to when you took the job.
Yes.
And they're wanting way more from you than they're giving you in return.
And you've tried to change it and it's not changing, and you need to leave, but you can't force a new perfect job to land in your lap tomorrow. What do? You put in the bare minimum and you don't go above and beyond until something better shakes out. I don't think this is a long-term solution to anything.
Can I also just say, I think for at least a lot of our people, maybe a lot of people in general, but a lot of our listeners, your version of quiet quitting is probably just doing your job.
I know. I mean, that's why I think this whole thing is so stupid, because I'm just like, do you mean working? Do you mean just like showing up and doing a job and then...
Nobody's saying that quiet quitting means not doing your job at all and just collecting a paycheck.
It just means doing it and not doing more than you're being asked to do.
Right. I'm like, if you're quiet quitting, you're probably doing the job you were asked to do.
You're doing a fucking adequate job. What's wrong with adequacy? I ask you, right? Why do we all need excellence? We don't. Thrivers are here nodding their head.
Yes.
Like thrivers are like, what I've been, wait, hold on.
Thrivers are like, oh, there's a thing for what I've been doing.
This is how I live my life. What are you talking about?
There's a name for it. I just thought this was working.
Yeah. And for some people that is working. And it's a totally just and valid way to work. Is just do the bare minimum. Why does there need to be an expectation of constant excellence and constant going above and beyond? If I give someone a job and they do the job, why the hell am I going to be mad at them for not doing more than what I asked them to do? If I want them to do more, I can ask them to do more.
I want to tell thrivers that quiet quitting might be just right for you.
I don't
think it has to even be rebellious for you. I think for a thriver, that's just a good approach to working. Now, I could see some of the other passion profiles who have a lot more of like
satisfied by that
passion. If you feel like quiet quitting, that might be a sign for you that
something is wrong about the job
and you're on your way out, essentially.
Yeah, I would agree.
Open to something better. But for a thriver,
you can be a thriver with a perfect job and still not want to do more than that. And that is fine. Let me assure you, that is normal for a thriver.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
I hope some of you are feeling very relieved by that, because as part thriver myself, I'm like, this just sounds normal. Is that weird? Why is this so revolutionary to so many people? This just sounds like many of my early jobs in my early 20s when I was figuring it all out and just taking a job because I needed a paycheck for a while.
Yeah.
And guess what? Nobody even knew. A lot of those early jobs, my first 2 or 3 jobs after college,
you got promoted.
I kept getting promoted and I was for sure quiet quitting because I had zero care about what I was doing.
I mean, there was a time where at my first job out of college at the investment firm, I would be working 40 hours a week. And if I worked 2 of those hours, I would be surprised. I mean, I was quiet quitting. Like it was egregious. I mean, everyone must have known. But
and nobody chastised you.
No one fired me.
No one fired you.
No one even commented on it. I sat there for a week and did nothing and no one commented on it and I still got paid. It was amazing. Now, am I saying that's what I think everyone should do? No.
You were not happy in that situation.
I wasn't happy and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next and I was fucking depressed, to be honest. But it's a great example of there were no consequences.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't paying that close. And it's not like I wasn't doing my job. It's just my job didn't take up very much time. I wasn't neglecting anything. I was doing the bare minimum. I just absolutely wasn't offering to do anything other than that. I could have filled my time with so many like special projects or gone to my boss and been like, do you need help with this? And I'm sure she would have said yes. And I didn't do any of that because I'm like, well, that's not what you're paying me to do. So
as with anything, I think what we're getting at here is quiet quitting. It's neither good nor bad. It's about the intention behind it. Of course, it's about the intention. If you're doing it because what you really need is some relief and you've been overcommitting and maybe you've been people pleasing, then quiet quitting might just be your way of getting back to the job you were supposed to do in the first place.
Yeah.
And not letting it steal too much of your energy and your time away from the rest of your life. In which case, that is a perfectly healthy intention for quiet quitting. If you're doing it to kind of get back at your boss because she's a bitch, or
and I have empathy for that.
Sure. Or if you're doing it for reasons that
are passive aggressive.
Yeah, it's like, I really need to have this hard conversation, but that is too uncomfortable. So I'm just going to opt out of some of these things I'm supposed to do. And it doesn't feel good in your body. It feels kind of out of alignment.
Or you're doing it because you're putting off figuring out what to do with the rest of your life. And you're kind of avoiding an existential crisis and you're just clocking in and clocking out and kind of numbing out. That's not sustainable either.
Mm-hmm. That's not the healthiest intention you could bring to it.
That's not really an intention at all.
No, it's just avoidance.
Yeah. So Well, I mean, to wrap this up, if you are someone who's quiet quitting for any number of reasons, because you're bored and you don't know what you'd rather be doing, or because you don't know how to confront a difficult situation and you think maybe there's a chance I could make my job better, but I don't know how, all roads could potentially lead to coaching. If not to hit directly over the head, but if it's true, it's true.
It's true. If you feel tempted to quiet quit, or you are actively quiet quitting, something's not right. Unless you're a thriver, in which case you might just need to give yourself permission, and that might
require a lot of working through fears and beliefs to get you to the point where you're comfortable doing that.
But even a thriver, just because they feel like quiet quitting doesn't mean it's the right job.
Doesn't mean it's healthy. No.
So there could be instances where you're a thriver, maybe you're in the wrong job, and that's why you're quiet quitting, is because you're completely overwhelmed. And
maybe you're quiet quitting to the level I was, and I mean, that was, I don't even know what you'd call that. That was like silent quitting, That was like,
I mean, you were there, but you weren't there. You were butt in a seat, but that's all they got out of you was your butt in that seat.
Yeah.
That's to a whole new level.
That was like silent severance.
They were paying you a severance. I didn't even know it.
Wait. What if that becomes the thing and now everyone talks about that a week from now?
Silent severance. I love it.
And
it has the alliteration.
Exactly.
So good.
And then they trace it to this podcast.
Oh no. I don't know.
Oh, that would be good things for our downloads.
But I kind of want to own that.
You heard it here first. Silent severance. It's even worse than quiet quitting. It's when you're working 2 hours or less a week at a 40-hour-a-week job.
Still getting paid.
And still getting paid.
That might turn into real severance real fast.
Yeah, well,
maybe that's the goal.
I mean,
anyway, usually it's a sign that this is not.
There's some deeper work to do, and that there's something that needs to be addressed.
Happy.
Yeah.
The fact that you don't want to be engaged in your job. Again, if quiet quitting is just a current term for disengagement, then we know disengagement means something's not right here. And maybe you know what's not right, but you don't know what is right. Or maybe you don't even really know why it's not right. Because I know some people think, why am I so unhappy? This job should be giving me everything that I wanted, but I'm still not happy with it. If either one of those describes you, coaching is probably, I'll say this, it's probably the fastest way for you to get really clear on what is broken and how you want to fix it to fit you and your life.
And let me be clear, what's broken is not you.
No, it's not you.
It's always a mismatch between you and the situation. Or, you've got fears and you've got some limitations that you're bringing to the situation that you're not even aware of. And one of the biggest questions I think we answer in coaching all the time is it me or is it the job? Or is it a combination? I just talked to a client. We had our last call yesterday and we had our first one in January. And she was like, I am amazed that I am in the same job at the same company. And when I first met you, I thought I was uncoachable. I thought I was broken. I thought I would never be able to work in this industry. I hated it that much. And she goes, I'm in the same job and I'm so much happier. And I'm like jazzed about life. And I'm like looking forward to getting promoted here. She's like, I never would have guessed how much of it was me. And so,
not that she was broken, but her relationship to the job was not working.
Not at all. And she was bringing a lot of perfectionism and procrastination, and built from a deep-seated place of, fear and family history. She was projecting all of that onto the job and making herself miserable.
Yep. Look, I'm never going to tell you the only way to get what you want and to get the kind of work and the kind of life that you want is to work with a coach.
No, I'm not a shyster.
No, it's not the only way. But you know what? It's the fastest way I've found, because you can figure a lot of the stuff out
over time, randomly at like weird bursts, and then but get confused because what order do I do these things in? I had an idea, but is it a good one? Should I move with that? What if I don't?
It's like the difference, here's a good analogy. It's the difference between trying to go from Virginia, where we are, to California. You could get in your car, no GPS, no map, and just generally try to head toward the west.
Well, you know where the sun is in the sky, and maybe you kind of know stars and shit.
And I'm going to just like meander toward the west and try to figure it out as we go. Or you could get in a plane and get there in 3 hours.
Is that how long it takes to get to California?
It's not that bad.
It does not take 3.5 hours to get to California from here. It's like 5.
But there's a time change difference, so it seems
Whatever.
longer.
Okay,
anyway.
fine. Whatever. Your
in a few hours versus meandering over weeks and maybe not even getting exactly where you wanted to land. Like generally you're going toward the west.
Do you want to go to San Francisco or do you want to go to LA?
Right.
I mean, there's kind of a difference.
San Diego, right? There's a different.
Do you want to go to like really Northern California where there's like mountains and Lake Tahoe and stuff? That's
you want to get there efficiently and accurately. That's what coaching does. That's why I find it to be so valuable, is because it helps people.
Well, also a lot of people don't even know they want to go to California.
Right.
First, you got to figure out, well, where do I want to go?
Well, that's like getting in a car and just being like, I don't want to be here. I'm just going to drive around
until I see something I like. Well, sure, you can do that, and you can waste 10 years in a car doing that if you want to.
Or you can pinpoint, I want to go
to California.
I want to go to LA. I want to get there on this day at this time. Okay?
Yes.
It's closer to what, and it's obviously
not exactly what we do,
not exactly
what we do, sort of what we do.
It's like let's get you there faster, and let's get where you actually want to be. Okay? If that sounds like what you want, then that's what we do in coaching. And we have a process that we take you through so that you don't have to figure out the process.
No thought goes into it. I mean, in terms of figuring out in what order we're going to do things and what works, you don't have to.
We'll give you plenty of food for thought, but yeah, you don't have to figure out the process.
Sometimes people push back, not in a bad way, just in a, like, they have a hard time relaxing into the process and trusting that we're going to get somewhere because they don't see how it connects. Mm-hmm. By the end, they always understand how it connected. And I'm like, all you had to do was trust me.
Mm-hmm. It's okay.
I've done this before.
It's normal to have a little doubt.
And you don't have to trust me just because I tell you to.
But it's true. Everybody always sees all the dots connect at the end.
Okay. So this is coming out on Tuesday. So our coaching period is, well, we take on clients a few times a year. It's going on for another week and a half, technically, but we have a limited amount of space. And so if you want to talk to us, if you're serious about the possibility, you can check out the link in the show notes, or you can go to clarityonfire.com, go to the Work With Us tab. The one-on-one coaching page is there, and you can explore that. And then fill out a form and talk to us about it. Because once again, if I said it once, I will say it a million times. I do not want to work with you unless I have talked to you first, unless we have made sure it would be a good fit all around. And I do not, nor does Kristen, want to pressure anyone into doing it. I feel icky ever feeling like I pressured someone into doing anything. I like consent. Shouldn't we all? And I like enthusiastic consent when it comes to coaching, because God forbid I coach someone who doesn't really want to be there and has 1 foot half in, half out. It's not fun and it doesn't work. And I'm only interested in things that work.
And if we're going to spend months together,
you better want to be there.
Then let's both really enjoy it. And get
you better not be quietly quitting coaching. Absolutely not. You got to be engaged in coaching if it's going to work for you.
Yeah. That's not helpful for you or us. No. So we want to make sure it's a good fit. If you are listening to this soon after it came out, day of or a few days after, I would fill out a form sooner rather than later if you're seriously considering it, just because I don't know when our capacity is going to fill up. If you're listening to this later, because I know myself, I listen to podcasts.
5 months later?
Oh, a while later, I'll go back and find a topic that's interesting. So if you saw the quiet quitting topic and are listening later, you can still go check out our one-on-one coaching page. We might be.
You can put your name on the wait list.
We might have a wait list form up, but you can always see where we're at on the wait list.
Okay. Well, whether you're quietly quitting or silently severing, I really want that to take off so badly. Let's make it happen. I don't have enough social media clout to make that happen. And I don't have a TikTok. That's the biggest difference between me and Gen Z. I don't TikTok.
We're so bad at social media, period.
Well,
And we're not even present on TikTok. I don't know, but we can try. You can help us.
I want to get you to the point where you are enthusiastically employed.
There you go. I do love alliteration.
By yourself or by someone else, I don't care. But
Sure.
enthusiastically employed in whatever sense of the word you want to use, employed.
Cheers
I like
to that.
I love alliteration. I'm so pleased with myself today.
The English major in me is thrilled.
Okay. Well,
We'll hopefully talk to some of you
yeah.
in the coming days, and we will be back on Friday.
With a new.
This is going to be a fun one.
Should we tell them? Well, I already told people on social media, so
okay, we can tease it.
We brought our friend Emily Lou back for her third appearance on the podcast, but it's going to be a special episode because we're not interviewing her. We brought her back to answer all of the Dear Rachel questions I've gotten in the last 6 months that have been specifically about job search stuff. That's more Emily's wheelhouse than ours.
She's the best at it.
I collated all of them. I said, come and answer all of these job related career search, interviewing. How do I get paid what I'm worth? Those types of questions. How do I find a job when I don't really know what title to search for? All that crap. I collated them and we're bringing her on the podcast again.
It's like a Dear Rachel plus Emily.
Dear Cremely.
Dear Cremely. Exactly.
So we will be back with Emily on Friday.
See you then.